You woke up this morning and checked the time. You used a calendar with 12 months. You walked past a building with columns holding up the roof. You paid for your coffee with coins stamped with a number. None of that is an accident. All of it is Rome. The empire didn't fall. It dissolved into you. For over 1,000 years, school children have learned a single date, 476 AD. The year the Western Roman Empire collapsed, when a Germanic chieftain named Odoacer deposed the last emperor, a teenager with the painfully ironic name Romulus Augustulus, Little Augustus, the end of an era marked in red on every history timeline ever printed. But here's the strange part. Nobody in Rome noticed. There was no announcement, no mourning in the streets, no sense that history had just snapped in two. The historian Peter Heather has spent decades studying this exact moment, and his research suggests something unsettling. The people living through it didn't experience a fall. They experienced a Tuesday. Why does that matter to you? Because the story you were taught, collapse, darkness, barbarians at the gate, is mostly a myth invented centuries later. And the truth is far stranger and far more useful if you want to understand how civilizations actually end. Let's go back. Not to the sack of Rome, but to what Rome actually was by the time it supposedly died. By the 5th century, the Roman Empire wasn't one thing. It was a sprawling, multi-ethnic, deeply bureaucratic system, stretched across 3 continents. Soldiers in Britain spoke Latin with local accents nobody in Italy would recognize. Tax collectors in Egypt used Roman law to settle disputes about grain. The empire had already split into East and West decades earlier, mostly because it had become too large for one government to administer with the technology available. The eastern half, and what we now call the Byzantine Empire, kept going for another 1,000 years. Constantinople didn't fall until 1453, when cannon fire finally breached its walls. That means Rome, in some continuous political form, existed for almost 2,000 years. Longer than anything you interact with today has existed. Longer than your country, longer than your language in most cases. So when people say Rome fell, what they usually mean is the Western administrative apparatus stopped collecting taxes in Latin and started collecting them in something else. That's not nothing. But it's not an apocalypse either. Here's where it gets interesting. The historian Brian Ward Perkins argued the opposite case, that something real and painful did happen. Pottery quality collapsed. Trade networks shrank. Towns that once had running water lost it for centuries. Ward Perkins's archaeological work shows a genuine material decline, especially in places like Britain, where Roman-style buildings simply stopped being built. So which is true? Did Rome fall apart, or did it just quietly change shape? The answer is both, and that's the part that should unsettle you. The administrative Rome, the empire, the emperor, the legions, did end in the West, but Roman law didn't end. The Catholic Church inherited Rome's organizational structure almost wholesale, with bishops replacing governors and dioceses replacing provinces. The word diocese is literally a Roman administrative term. You're hearing it right now, 1,500 years later, because an institution borrowed Rome's filing system to survive Rome's collapse. Look at your own life for a second. The alphabet on this screen, the Romance languages spoken by over 900 million people today, the architecture of your local courthouse with its columns and its pediment, designed to look authoritative because Rome made authority look like that first. The concept of a republic, of a senate, of checks on power. Even your bathroom with running water delivered through pipes is a Roman idea that briefly disappeared and then came roaring back during the Renaissance, when architects literally dug up Roman aqueducts to copy them. You're not living after Rome, you're living inside its afterimage. There's a phrase historians use for this: the transformation of the Roman world, not the fall. The classicist Peter Brown spent his career making this case, arguing that what looks like an ending is often a slow-motion handoff. Rome didn't die. It got absorbed into 100 smaller successor kingdoms, each one keeping a piece. The law here, the language there, the religion almost everywhere, like a star that explodes and seeds 1,000 new planets with its leftover elements. So why do we still tell the collapse story? Because collapse stories are satisfying. They give you a villain, barbarians, and a clean ending. Tuesday by Tuesday dissolution doesn't sell. It doesn't fit on a textbook timeline. Humans like sharp boundaries. We like before and after. We like a date we can circle. But ask yourself this: if Rome's fall was actually a centuries-long transformation that most people alive at the time didn't even notice happening around them, what does that say about the transformations happening around you right now? Right now, institutions you assume are permanent are quietly being rewritten. Currencies are changing form. Languages are merging and splitting online faster than they ever did through migration. The way you get your news, your sense of community, your concept of work, all of it is shifting in ways no single headline captures, because no single headline ever captures a slow transformation. It only captures the days someone official says this is officially over, long after the actual ending already happened, unnoticed, in 100 small decisions nobody flagged as historic. That's the real lesson hiding inside 476 AD. Endings rarely feel like endings while you're inside them. They feel like an ordinary day with slightly fewer tax collectors than usual. Think about your own habits for a moment. The version of you from 10 years ago would barely recognize how you communicate, how you shop, how you think about time itself. Nobody declared that old version of you officially over. It just stopped being useful piece by piece, while a new version absorbed whatever still worked. That's not collapse. That's Rome's actual playbook. Keep what works. Let the rest dissolve quietly. Hand the pieces forward to whatever comes next. And in that sense, Rome never really needed to fall because falling was never really what happened. It just kept handing itself down, generation after generation, language after language, until the empire stopped being a place on a map and became something stranger, a set of habits so deeply embedded in how billions of people organize their lives that nobody even thinks to call it Roman anymore. You checked the time this morning. 12 months, 60 minutes, columns holding up a roof, coins with numbers on them. None of that is an accident. All of it is Rome. The empire didn't fall. It became the operating system you're running right now, and you never even had to install it.